Because of I guess the banking facilities not being as easily accessible digitally in this part of the world actually causes a lot more hardship than you would have seen in other markets. And that's really accelerated by necessity, people's requirement for digital financial services. When we started here, I think there was only maybe 4 or 5 of the 27 banks in the market that had a digital offering. And you can certainly see that now that's the top of their priority list.
Our biggest challenge is to have some government action. We very much need what we have proposed to the government, which is Bill C-11, to pass, as we need some regulation in regards to consumer data rights to push our market-led approach that has been moving quite slowly within Canada to a faster pace, as we are one of the last countries in the Commonwealth to make a move off the starting line in regards to open banking.
Overly burdensome regulation. So I'm a believer in the free market, and that is to say an open banking regime where the market participants can build the ecosystem together. I still believe there is a role for the government, but it should focus more on setting up the guidelines, the standards, potentially certifications and monitoring. If there is a highly regulated approach taken in Canada, because negotiations or discussions are still going, it's not set in stone, this would result in very, very high costs for the entire ecosystem for the participants, and then very likely few truly innovative use cases and low adoption.
I believe the main challenge for the adoption of open banking in Brazil is associated with consumer engagement and awareness. It's rather pointless to have a state-of-the-art infrastructure, decent user experience guidelines, and a broad range of data covered with the regulation if the consumers are not aware of their right to return their personal data, and they do not know how to reap benefits of this particular data sharing.
I think in France, it might be the culture and history. If you compare to the UK, who led the way in this field with CMA9 and OBIE, we didn't have the equivalent in France. And what happened is that, banks here just got compliant. We really need to get banks into thinking competitive advantage with open banking and even innovation to drive the business further and generate new sources of revenue.
Aside from the largest banks who've been really good at investing and always updating their technology infrastructure, the rest still have a lot of work to do in order to be able to seamlessly integrate with the FinTechs. The second challenge would be the adoption of the consumers themselves, the awareness, and of course the trust. There has to be, of course, an entity that regulates FinTechs, and the laws need to be there, which is the case here in Egypt. So the regulations are there. However, the consumer awareness and appetite is something that we will need to definitely work on.
What we hope to see is open banking coming into the market and breaking down some of those barriers, which are not so much a requirement from us to grow the business, but more to reach people that don't currently have access to financial services in the region or lack from quality financial services. So I'd anticipate over the next 5 years that once we see an introduction of digital banks, which will be the first step, and then after that open banking, the end consumer is going to greatly benefit from where they are today.
Our consumer-directed finance movement has been quite slow, but I do believe that over the next couple of years, we will move forward with open banking as our market-led approach, as well as hopefully drive towards government action to have regulations to push our consumer data rights forward, as well as move towards open finance and beyond that to open data in general, similar to what's happening in the UK and Australia, Brazil, and so many other countries. I truly believe that as Canada starts to move forward, we will see the growth, the VC dollar investments into our FinTechs, into our market, and our consumers having more savings, as well as our small businesses having more opportunity to grow. If we do have the right actions, Canada can be a leader within the space, as well as drive out better outcomes for our entire community within Canada.
If we have a more of a market-driven solution, I think you'll see all the banks, or majority of the banks, we have the big 5 in Canada, really stepping up to introduce their own solutions, both to share data, but also to ingest data from others, and building those use cases on top of that to give customers a better customer experience around advice and financial well-being, and maybe as far as budgeting and being able to make payments from other accounts. I think we'll also see a flurry of partnerships, bilateral partnerships, where the bank partners with an aggregator or with a fintech to exchange that information, or maybe even with each other to build those solutions, and maybe even the emergence of an industry, a Canadian aggregator solution. So rather than potentially partnering with different aggregators, maybe the industry sets something up to onboard, certify, monitor participants and exchange data.
I believe we will see many regulators in the Latin American region trying to push the envelope towards an open finance environment, where the data share is not limited to traditional banking products, and maybe even involve other economic sectors in this discussion. We will need to start talking about cross-border transfer of data, and here I believe international standard setters could be of great assistance to everyone.
We're really hoping on the PSD3, really learning from the experience of PSD2, and I think Europe has started the process with the first implementation. We need to make it easier from an end user journey, and I think that's even if you talk about strong authentication, customer authentication, for instance, and I think that's the next step is how you make it easier, how you can actually spread open banking, make it easier and spread open banking to other fields and other verticals.
The way I see it, it is going to grow, and it's going to grow immensely, whether you are looking into digital lending, digital insurance, savings, micro investments, and the like. We are going to see plenty of those, and they are going to improve the financial inclusion rates in the country.